This review is brought to you by Game Schooled at 166A Bennett Road, Toronto, Canada. Drop by and check out the hottest new board games, or sit down and play a bunch.
Scribe, come forth!
Yes, my liege?
I am bored. Write me a board game review.
Your wish is my command, my liege.
My desires shall be fulfilled, for I am the King of Amusements!
Hello everybody, I am the Scribe for the King of Amusements, and tonight I'm going to be talking about a board game that you may or may not have heard of, because it is a fairly new board game, but I think it's extremely important to know. It's called Sanitation. It's called Spanakopita. It's called Rick Santorum. It's called Santorini. Seriously, this game has one of the most difficult to remember titles I've ever heard of in my entire life. Even when I'm writing this review, I'm still like, what was it called again? Sammy's Quest? I know that Santorini is a place in Greece, but that just makes it a little bit more difficult to find in a Google search and do research on at the moment. So, the board game, I mean, not the place. But whatever. I highly recommend it, whether you do or you don't like board games. Pick it up and give it a shot. This game fills a very important niche when it comes to entertainment. It's a board game specifically designed to be extremely easy to learn for anyone. You don't have to be a board game expert to completely fall in love with this game. This box specifically states it takes 30 seconds to learn, and that's why I picked it up in the first place, because I wanted a game that I could easily introduce to non-board game fans like my friends. So, when you open it up, your first thoughts, like mine, might be, what is this? Oh my god, there's so many rules I don't understand! What, golden fleece? What the hell is a golden fleece? Is that something you eat? Advanced gods? How the hell could this possibly be learned in 30 seconds? It's impossible! But if you slow down, yeah, it really is that easy to learn, and it's much more simple than you might think at first glance. But let me clarify something. The base game takes 30 seconds to learn. Maybe not exactly. I don't think you should put a stopwatch up and try to time how long it takes and be like, actually it took 31.56 seconds for me to become an ultimate Grandmaster Champion, you lying sack of... But it is extremely simple and easy to learn. However, there are basically 4 different games that are included in this that do take longer. Let me explain. The basic game mechanics, present in all versions of the game, is that you need to move one space in any direction, and you can move up or down one layer of building. You then have to build a layer of building somewhere in your range. You have to do both. You can move around and build a bunch of towers, and the first person who climbs to the 3rd layer of a tower wins. You can also build a cap on top of the tower so that the opponent can't steal the win from you. And that's one of the most amazing things about this game. Just by playing it, you're building these beautiful cities as you play. Remember Mousetrap? Remember how putting the game together looked so cool and building that contraption was more fun than the stupid game itself? In this game, part of the game is putting it together, and that's genius. And when you're putting it together organically, it looks different every time. So you're creating a brand new city after every game. And I just want to take a picture of the board after every game. It looks so cool. It's like Greek Lego, you know? So when you're playing it, it's kind of like a sequel to Tic-Tac-Toe, because you take turns and you're blocking each other, and it's really simple to teach. But it's better, because 1, it's Greek, and who doesn't like Greek things, am I right? 2, there's actual strategy involved, so it isn't an inevitable stalemate after every time. And 3, it has layers. How cool is that? I actually can't understate how fun it is to play on a layered board. I feel like I'm Captain Kirk playing a 3D chess game with Spock. I'm about to checkmate him and take all of his lunch money. And then I laugh and I ordered him to mop the floor because I'm the captain and I have the ability to order that. And Spock is like, that is illogical, Captain, but I guess I'll do it. I mean, I can't really refuse. And Kirk's like, ha 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 ha. I got a little off track there, but talking about this game and how easy it is to learn, here's a true story. I taught a group of my friends how to play this game, and literally 10 minutes later, one of my friends was teaching somebody else how to play this game confidently, and that was just so cool to me. However, there is another way to play, and that's with God cards, and they completely change the way the game is played. These God cards, which are amazingly drawn by the way, props to the artist, give different effects and abilities depending on which card you have. Some, like Artemis, give you a passive ability like moving an extra space. Some, like Eros, give you a second win condition you can try to fulfill instead. Some give you an extra ability, like the Minotaur. Some give your opponent a passive debuff, like Hera, where it just always hinders them in some way and they have to play around it. And some, like Bia, just allow you to straight up kill your opponent. How does that sound? The instructions recommend you play without god cards first, and I recommend that too. When I was there playing with my friends, one person came in late, and we were trying to play catch-up and teach him all the rules, and I tried to teach him about god cards along with the basics, and I did notice there was a bit of information overload that caused him to hesitate just a bit when he was playing and be a little bit more unsure of himself. This game is great for picking up and playing immediately, but the god cards make it just a little bit slower to learn at first. As for the god cards, the instructions recommend you choose your god cards at the start, but I personally recommend that when you're introducing the god cards in the beginning, to shuffle the cards and deal them at random so that everybody gets a chance to learn how these god cards work, which ones they like best, and what their options are. Even when my friends had memorized almost all the god cards, and they knew which ones they liked using, they still insisted that we play with random god cards because it was more fun and exciting. So that's a fun little house rule to consider, gives an extra challenge. And if two people like the same god card, and they both want it, then you don't really have to let them pick. You can sort of assign it for them at random. On that topic, there's an instruction manual with all the god cards, as I mentioned before, but the god cards also have a visual instruction printed on them that explains what it does and helps you remember. And it has a number on it so you can look it up in the instructions really quickly. And that made the god cards really easy to understand and memorize just after a few games of playing with them, and made it really easy to explain to my friends. It was something that I thought was really well done. This game is really fun with and without god cards, and it's up to personal preference which one you want. Some of my friends really enjoyed the variety and depth it added, while others actually appreciated the more streamlined simplicity of the base game. I say, play both versions and see which one you like more. I'm still not even sure which version I like best. These two games, which the instructions recommend, are 1 player versus 1 player, but there is a version of this game for 3 players, and it's vastly different, and a version for 4 players. In 3 players, everybody has a different color, and it's a free-for-all, and it's a little difficult to keep track of everything with all those god cards. With 4 players, you work as a team of 2 with your own individual god cards. They're all really fun, but I think the 1 versus 1 game types are the most fun. So, okay, you're probably thinking at this point,
Alright, we get it already. You like this board game. You won't shut the heck up about it, but who cares? Who cares?
Well, I think this is an important game to own because anybody can learn how to play it really fast. Even if you're playing with somebody who's really impatient, there's a fun game here for them. And because of that, this is the ultimate gateway board game. If you want to start a board game night with your friends, buy this game, buy them some chips or beer or whatever, and you're going to have a blast. Your friends are probably going to want to do it again, like next week. Not only that, but imagine you have a power outage, no computer to pass the time. Break this out, doesn't matter who you're with at the time. They're going to have a blast. Or, if you yourself want to play more board games, but you don't know where to start, because there's so many out there, and a lot of them are really weird with these complex rules that you gotta learn, and what are these pieces that go missing? But you can't go wrong with Santorini. That being said, there are a few kinks to this game. I'm not gonna pretend this game is perfect, like this is God's one gift to the world in the form of a board game, but there are a few things I think anybody purchasing this game should be aware of. These aren't deal breakers for me by a long shot, and I still highly recommend it, but there are a few things that you should know nonetheless. My biggest issue with the game is that in the interest of making things really simple, the instructions that looked really complicated at first are sometimes too simple. It can lead to a bit of confusion that needs you to come to a decision during your game as to how to address it. For example, in the instruction, when it comes to how many god cards each player gets, it says that the person assigning god powers assigns them equal to the number of players. Does that mean that if there are 2 players that each get 2 god cards for a total of 4 game-changing variables? A later rule under 4-player mentions that each player has their own power, singular. Does that mean that everybody gets 1, or is that just a reference to each specific power? And if you're only supposed to have 1, why are there banned matchups among the expansion pack gods? The wording is vague, so you're gonna have to decide when the time comes to play with god powers, just how much do you want to deviate from the base game? This troublesome vagueness also applies to certain god powers, like Triton for example. His description states that he can move again if he moves into a space along the perimeter, but how many times? His god card has an infinity symbol on it, which is what caused the confusion among my friends in the first place, but everybody agreed it would be very strange to have a card that allowed you to move an infinite number of times, even if it was just along the perimeter, because most cards allow you to only move an additional space, or put down an additional block. It would have been very helpful to have this card explained further. In the instruction manual, there's a link that redirects you to Roxley's YouTube page, where there are many god cards that are explained visually. However, at the time of this review, Triton wasn't released, and neither was another god we were having trouble with, Morpheus, who we did figure out, but the wording is strange enough that I would have liked a visual demonstration just to be sure. A lot of gods don't have videos yet, and the last video was released 3 months ago. That isn't that long, but it's long enough to make me wonder whether they'll finish it or not. Again, this isn't an insurmountable problem. You just have to decide how these god cards function when the instructions get too vague, or whether you want to play with these cards to begin with. Aside from those minor concerns, this game is a ton of fun to play and it's very accessible. I highly recommend going to a board game cafe where you can try it out, or just buy it and see for yourself. Oh, and before I sign off, this is just talking about what comes in the basic Santorini box. The instruction manual mentions how to play with the Golden Fleece expansion pack, but I can't speak on behalf of that expansion pack and how fun it is because I didn't play it. So that's going to wrap it up for this video. I hope you have fun playing this game, I hope you have fun watching this, and I hope you stick around for more board game reviews. Good night, everyone.